What's up, guys? Welcome back to Horsepower and Pizza. It is the day y'all have been waiting for a while. I'm working on this thing again. My tubing came in for my chassis, but before I build any of that, I have to build my rear end mount for the axle and the bearings and everything, so we can figure out where that's going to sit. And I'll explain that to you here shortly. Danny $, he's gonna be building my tube chassis for me. So the last video that I did on this, I built the rear axle that's mounted to the hubs that I bought when I bought the rear wheels. Still don't have my front wheels or my steering yet, so I can't get too involved with the tube chassis yet, but we're working on it. My bearings did finally come in. They are cast pillow block bearings that are tapped on the bottom. That is how I will be securing them to the sliding rear end. When I milled these flats onto the rear axle, I put them at 90 degrees from one another, which was a gamble because I didn't know where the set screws were on the bearings. Update on the set screws on the bearings, I gambled and lost because they're at 120 degrees apart, but I have a solution for that too that I will be showing you at some point. So after doing some math, the assembled rear wheels and axle are 35 inches wide. The car is 25 inches wide, so there's going to be 5 inches of tire sticking out on either side. Between the wheels, I have about 14 3/4 inches. The bearing collars here are 1.5 inches long, so times 2 of those, I have 3 inches. So the 14 3/4 minus 3 inches, I have 11 3/4 inches to work with here. And in that space, I need to mount the rear brake rotor and the rear drive sprocket. I'm going to give myself a little bit of clearance between the edge of the wheels and the face of the bearing, so my rear plate is going to be 13 inches wide. I will be building the tube chassis out of 1-inch steel tubing with 1/8 inch thick wall. However, this sliding rear end does not get welded to anything because it literally just will have bolts run down through something welded to the chassis, and then this will be able to slide back and forth. The reason this plate is going to not be welded to anything and be able to slide back and forth is to tension the drive chain. On like a motocross bike or a motorcycle in general, there's slack in the drive chain and you need to have some slack so it will move, because if it's too tight, it will chew up the sprockets, and if it's too loose, it will also chew up the sprocket. So you gotta find that happy medium, and I need a way to tension this chain because we are using the motor out of an old motocross bike. So I'll just give you a quick rundown on this, and then I'll set up the GoPro and you guys can watch me make it. The bearings are 4 inches long this way, so I'm gonna use 4-inch wide aluminum. It's gonna be 13 inches long, roughly, give or take a little bit, doesn't really matter for this. It's going to have 4 through holes on the corners for 7/16 14 bolts to slide up through. When I say 7/16 14, 7/16 is the diameter, 14 is how many threads are in an inch. I'm going to have 2 3/8 inch holes reamed in the center here for these pins to be pressed in, and that is what is going to allow the steel plate that will be welded to the frame to slide against this aluminum plate. Not so much allow it to slide as much as locate it. And then there are going to be these 2 slots. They're going to be 1 inch long by 1/2 inch wide, and that is for me to put 1/2 inch hardware down through. There will be a nut on the bottom, and that is what is going to lock them together once we do achieve proper tension. As you saw in the time lapse, I went through and drilled these 4 holes. Those are going to be what the bolts come up through to hold the bearings. Next, I'm going to put the 1/2 inch slots in here that the 1/2 inch hardware will come up through and bolt it fast to the steel plate that will be welded to the frame. I just programmed a quick pocket, and then I copied it so it's the same program, just 6.5 inches over. If you look, there we have it. These ProtoTrack machines are cool because you can run them in 2 or 3 axis. If I put it in 3 axis, it will do all the Z moves on its own and run like a normal CNC machine. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll set up the GoPro for you to watch it. So now I have pockets in here. My 1/2 inch hardware will slip down through. They're 1 inch long, so it'll give me a little bit of adjustability. I don't think we'll need that much. Worst case scenario, if I need that much adjustability or more adjustability, I'll just take a link out of the chain and we'll work with it from there. This project is a lot of fun and a good challenge, only because I have no blueprints or anything to go from, so I'm making things up as I go. Danny's just kind of along for the ride at this point, but he's gonna help me weld because I don't weld that well, and that's what he's for.
I'm useful.
He's also single, ladies. So I have 6 inches between these pockets. On my drawing, I have my pins located 3 inches apart. Put them about here, but they're gonna be centered like this pocket is. These are 3/8 diameter dowel pins. They're 1 inch long. Steel plate that these will slide in is going to be probably 1/4 inch thick. So I'm gonna put these down about 5/8 so they stick up a little bit above the plate. So there's gonna be about 3/8 that stick up. So that's my next thing. I'm going to drill them undersize and then ream them to size. They should slip in there. If they're too loose, I'm gonna throw some Loctite in them, and we'll call that a day there. So I drilled these pinholes the whole way through and only reamed them 5/8 deep. So there's a little shelf shoulder that they sit on. They slide in pretty well, but they sit down on that shelf. So I still might Loctite them at some point, but for right now, they don't spin, so that's all that really matters. So because this hole, this pin is good, we can't spin it, we can, of course now on camera it makes a liar out of me. They're still fairly good, but you can fix that. You can take a ball bearing, this is a marble. That's generally just enough to mushroom the top of the hole. Don't say I never taught y'all nothing. I want to round these edges so they're not so sharp, and then we are good to test fit to the bearings and the axle. So that's all there is to it. I could do these corners and the bottom side too, but to save time today, I'm not going to. I'll pull it out, I'll deburr the back sides of these off camera and hit that with a Dremel real quick just to take the edge off, and then we will go test fit it. I took one of the wheels off and just kind of test fit this on here. Adjustability side to side. There's just over 3/4 of an inch. It's like 13/16 or something like that. Looks pretty good. I was freestyling numbers in my head and I knew where the center line of the bearings was, plus center line of the axle and everything. Because the wheels are 11 inches tall, center line of the axle would be 5.5 inches. Center line of the bearing is going to be 1 7/50 inches, so 1 3/4 inches from this top face. So you drop that down to here, plus you have 3/4 here, so this, from the bottom face of this to the center line of the axle is 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches minus the 5.5 to the center line should give you about 3 inches ground clearance. We're just under a 32nd shy of 3 inches of ground clearance, so that was a pretty good estimate. With the hardware sticking out of the bottom, lose about another 1/2 inch, so there's about 2.5 inches of ground clearance. 2.5 inches of ground clearance will be plenty just driving it around parking lots and stuff. So if I put this down and kick it, it rolls fairly straight, and I'm very excited about that. I thought I was so clever with this, and as I'm sitting here looking at it and talking to you guys about it, I realized that I screwed up. There's not that much clearance in here. I still have to add my rear brake rotor and my drive sprocket. Well, can't put a drive sprocket in between that, and we lose a 1/4 inch in here too, because the steel plate is going to go in here. It's going to fit between the bearings. Bolts are going to come up through these slots here to lock it down, and that's what gives us our adjustability. The steel plate's going to have holes for the hardware and slots for the 3/8 pins to slide in. But I think what I'm going to do now is shorten this up. I'll make it uniform, so I'll shorten it from both ends and move the bearings in, and then I can put my brakes on one side, and the right side is going to be where the motor's offset to, most likely. So that's where my drive sprocket's going to be. Minor oversight on my part, but it's Saturday. It's been a long week, and it's kind of hot out. So on that note, I will update that when I have to go and modify my axle and everything anyway, so I'll keep you guys in the loop on that. If you like this build, be sure to subscribe, head over to Instagram at horsepowerpizza. Gonna be keeping that pretty well updated, as well as www.horsepowerandpizza.com. I have new merch coming for the end of summer, 2 different shirts, shop flags, stickers, and different hats. Different than these hats, which I still do have a couple of. If you are interested, head over there, check us out. I appreciate all of the support. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.
We out here.
That works too. See you guys next week.